Yesterday I was at a meeting, a SHAPE committee meeting. Don't ask me what that acronym stands for. And I know what it has to do with, though. It has to do with social emotional learning. It has to do with mental health awareness. Annie heads it up, and Mrs. Gibson's on it, and Mrs. May from General Shanks, and Mr. Gibson, and Mrs. Gregg, and I think that's all the elementary people, I think, and somebody from Meridian, and then Mr. Pinkerton and Mr. Kroll. I think those are all the folks. I might be leaving somebody out. But at any rate, and then I'm on it too. But it has to do with all that social emotional learning and mental health stuff. So I was at that meeting, and we were talking about the social emotional learning needs, and SEL is what we call it. And then that kind of led to what is SEL, and how are we implementing that in the schools, and do teachers need help with that? What can we do? How are we going to make sure we're putting out a good program on that, and all that kind of stuff. And then it led to what do teachers need to know about SEL? And I thought, man, there's a lot of information out there, and I thought newsletter just kind of crunching all that down a little bit, getting down to the basics might be a good starting point. So that's the purpose of this newsletter. And I want to make a couple points too. One thing is, if you, 20 years of teaching kiddos with emotional disabilities, this was my go-to. This is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. These cats started the whole SEL thing. They're the ones who came up with that acronym SEL about 20 years ago. And they have started this whole warehouse of resources and the 5 components of what SEL programs should look like, how to implement it. They've studied and found the scientific best practices for implementation. They help schools to implement it. So if you want to know anything about it, to me, this is the best, most trusted place to start. So there's that. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. Because like I said, there's all kinds of stuff out there. And since it is kind of a common thing that's coming up right now, the SEL term, it's kind of become a buzzword. Everybody's going to try to make some money off of it. So there's lots of different programs out there. So this one is a good one. Another point I want to make, you guys are already doing this. Teachers are already doing this. I think back when I was a kid at West Lawn and at West J in the high school, my teachers were doing this when they had us work in groups, when Mr. Luker had us make a film about the first person on Earth, and when Mr. Taylor showed us the film about Nostradamus, and these were in middle school, and had us have discussions about that. When we did some kind of Olympic thing in 5th grade, and we all worked together as a team, and we talked about how to work together as a team. When I was sad, and I first because somebody called me Thunder Thighs, and my teacher took care of me and said, hey, God loves you even if you got thunder thighs. That's an example. Things like that. When Miss Stuckey saw that I liked to write and that I was kind of decent at it, and she sent my picture or my story in, and it got published. And there was my pictures in the newspaper, and that's an example because she was seeing my strengths. It's been going on forever. And you guys are doing it too. Each school that I'm in, the schools that I've taught in, high school. I'm a high school and middle school teacher for 18 years or so. This stuff is not just touchy-feely elementary school stuff. This stuff goes on there. I think about it all the time. I told somebody that we've all been doing this before it was cool, like Barbara Mandrell. We did SEL before it was cool. And you guys are doing it now. The tree, the food drive here at East Elementary, that's an example. The clubs over at General Shanks is an example that, just say no. And the student council. The Veterans Day, teaching kids to respect veterans, that's an example. When teachers notice that a kid needs something and they send me an email, or they just pull that kiddo aside and talk with him or her, and they talk about emotions and how you're feeling and what to do. When teachers let me bring a break box into their room so that a kid can go to the break box instead of getting in trouble. When the principal here fills out the think about it sheets, so that's teaching conscious discipline, so that kids can think about their decisions, and it's not just, and Chad Dodd, when he was a dean at the high school, would do that. A kid would make a bad decision. He was always, how are we going to fix this? What can we do? He always knew he was not giving up on that kid. Okay, so those are the 2 things I want you to know. But the main purpose of this newsletter is just to break this all down, because there's so much information, and because it is a buzzword, I think there's a lot of wacky stuff out there too. So the purpose of this newsletter is just to let you know what SEL is in a simple way. And then the 2 points I wanted to make are, if you have any questions, check out CASEL. Just check that out. It's a good starting point. Very trustworthy. They're the cats who started all this. They're kind of like the Wizard of Oz of CASEL right there. And then the other point is, you're already doing this when you greet your students at the door, when you tell them goodbye, when you help them figure out their problems. I can go on and on. I could go on and on, but I won't. Okay, thanks.